E.T. is back, and he is here to save Christmas. Everyone's favorite Extra Terrestrial and a whole slew of nostalgic characters and toys are being dusted off to help us forget toxic fandom and remember what it is that made us fall in love with all these brands in the first place. This week on The Con Guy.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's The Con Guy, Comic-Con prep.
Happy Cyber Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Con Guy Comic-Con Prep Show, your home for news and insider opinions from the world of Comic-Cons, fandoms, and pop culture. My name is Jim. I'm your managing editor here. And who else do we have with us this week?
Katie Kawamoto here again, sitting in this seat this week again. So
musical chairs.
Hi, Derek Sams, contributor to theconguy.com. Thank you, studio audience.
Danae Sams, that's my brother, and that's the reason I'm here.
No, plus you're a giant fan.
I'm a huge fan of everything.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
We
you
may be seeing more of Danae.
And yes,
That
and you're
would
also
be-
a writer who has 2 books that you
I
just showed me that
do.
you published. But anyways, who else do we have on the couch today?
I am Cheeseman on the couch here with, hey, thank you, with conguy.com. And I got my good friend Patrik here, who we've, I think, mentioned on the show. We've had some other musicians from his band on talking Star Wars before, Vito. And we now have Patrik, actor, musician, here with us. So
Patty, wait, we had a party for Patty this past week. What was it for?
Patrik Joseph Rieger, recent guest star, reoccurring on Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, that was awesome. Hey, Patrick, what was your character's name?
His name was Ray. He was a very sketchy guy.
you can't trust Ray.
No. Tell us just a little bit about it.
Well, you know, I have a lot of experience kidnapping babies and drinking whiskey in seedy motel rooms. And that's exactly what the character called for.
So basically, you were doing The Mandalorian, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're like, we had wardrobe for you, but can you just wear your own clothes and
I
just
pretty
act
much
the same
did.
way?
Did not get a bump for my own wardrobe.
Oh, shame.
NBC.
All right. I hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We are here at the end of Thanksgiving weekend. This is, like I said, Cyber Monday, which is traditionally one of the biggest online selling days of the year. It's one of the least productive days in the office of the year, from what I understand, which is true for me. But I had the opportunity to go over to the Samses. Is that a plural of Sams?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
The Samses abode for a Thanksgiving dinner, and I found out that you guys are like book writing siblings here. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've published more than you have.
Oh, and they're competitive.
Sorry.
I love it.
I mean, I've had work produced.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Duke it out, since this is Toxic Fandom Night. Hey, no, Danae,
Today is self-published, right? But
Yeah.
you've got 2 books out there that are available on Amazon.
On Amazon, I've got
Yes.
September Christmas, which is about lifelong best friends growing up when you don't want to, and The Coffee Bible, which is love poetry about coffee. And this past week, I just finished a book about Persephone and Hades that's coming in spring of 2020.
about what?
Persephone and Hades from Greek mythology.
Which your name is from Greek mythology.
It is.
Yes.
What's it mean?
I don't know what it means.
Danae,
But she was the mother of Perseus.
yeah, who slew Medusa.
Yeah.
So
really?
we're all in the constellations.
One big, beautiful, nerdy kingdom. I love it. I
Thank
love it. I love it.
you.
So, we actually have a very special edition of our 3-minute rundown this week. Our 3-minute rundown is, let me see. Yep. It's all about nostalgia. Guys, this week we are talking about nostalgia. One of the things that we talk about a lot on the show here is how we despise toxic fandom. And don't get me wrong, all of us, I think, at one time have probably had our foot or a little bit in there. Like, we defend what we love, we despise what we don't love. But toxic fandom is something that we talk about quite often here on the show. And something happened this last Thanksgiving which just really... That E.T. commercial that came on, which we're going to show a little bit later
It
on the
made
show.
you really angry? Is that what you're
It made
saying?
me angry, just made me hate E.T. No,
No.
no, but really, it just
He'll
struck
never
a
eat
chord.
Reese's Pieces again.
That, and I had a life-changing experience watching the Mr. Rogers movie this week. It just moved me. It moved me. It was just a special experience for me.
To
Me alone.
grown man tears.
A grown man in tears. Me and the entire rest of the theater, though.
Single man tear.
I don't know what that is.
That's all right.
Anyways, so that's what we're going to talk about this week. But to start off the night tonight, we are going to go through 3 minutes of nostalgic themed news. And this is all news from this week. So, by the way, we have one more member of the crew who keeps things running all night. This is Ryan Nielsen, who is in the booth engineering. And
What's going on here? Oh, I'm excited for these 3 minutes of news. Derek,
I'm excited too. Hello.
I'm going to count you in, man.
Okay.
And then we're going to be really particular on these 3 minutes.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And there is a prize if
Yeah.
you complete it within 3.
Should be
and
easy.
a punishment if you do not.
Oh, I hope
can
he
handle
loses.
All right, here we go. I'll count you in 3, 2, 1.
First up, Star Wars news. We already know that Emperor Palpatine will somehow factor into the story, and now it looks like some other iconic characters from the original trilogy are popping up in Episode 9 as well, namely Ewoks. The Ewoks made their debut in Return of the Jedi and haven't been seen on the big screen since, but that might change with The Rise of Skywalker. A new video promoted the Star Wars franchise's legacy ahead of Episode 9, which featured a shot of actor Warwick Davis back in an Ewok costume.
A gray Ewok costume.
Interesting.
Gray hair.
With a little more than 3 weeks to go until Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker hits theaters to close a 9-film saga, the film's box office projections have landed. According to The Hollywood Reporter, The Rise of Skywalker is expected to hit somewhere in the $175 to $200 million range when it lands at the box office the weekend before Christmas. Star Wars The Force Awakens arrived 10 days before Christmas in 2015 and went on to set a box office record with a whopping $248 million opening weekend. Star Wars The Last Jedi came along in a nearly identical window 2 years later and snagged $220 million in its opening weekend. Toys R Us officially returned last week with a brick-and-mortar location in Paramus, New Jersey.
Makes me so happy.
Yeah, after the iconic toy company announced it was going out of business last winter, the iconic Toys R Us mascot, Geoffrey the Giraffe, was present for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The brand had previously filed for bankruptcy in 2017. Another physical store opened at a mall in Houston, Texas this past Sunday. In addition to being a purveyor of toys like it was before, the retailer has smartly transformed into a sort of play park for young people. Moreover, it offers customers the chance to virtually purchase items that aren't physically in stock. So it's like an online store, but in person.
Yeah, how great is that?
Wow.
Show up into our store so you can shop online.
Yeah. Fans of Mystery Science Theater 3000 are not going to be very pleased as Netflix has decided to shut down the revival of the beloved cult classic after 2 seasons. The show will be shopped around to other services.
Dun 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 dun! He made it.
He made it.
He
He made it.
did.
And your
Well
prize
done.
is that I'm going to wear these glasses for the remainder of the show.
Yes.
Just whenever. Yeah. So there it is.
They're
That is
very
a-
Like,
reflective.
if you had me choose a prize, I probably could not have dreamed of anything so glorious. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I love those. I love those a
Are
whole
any of
lot.
you guys, have you been watching Mystery Science Theater 3000?
I was going to ask you about
watched
that.
The revival
Derek,
on Netflix.
Might I remind you, 2000 was in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. 2 fellas in a small studio, and I miss it very much.
Oh, is that where they were broadcast
Really?
from?
Minnesota.
Wow.
By the way, and Patrick, you were from?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yes.
Ah. That's why I had heard of that place before, because you've mentioned
It
it.
takes a weird,
Okay.
obscure Midwestern
Uh-huh.
town to
Yeah,
produce
yeah,
that kind of
uh-huh.
weird movie.
But it has
Don't
been really
you
good. Like,
know?
okay, Jonah Ray and Felicia Day, of course, and it's clever. So often reboots. Sometimes it's a little like, is it really gonna be any good or not? And it is. I think it stayed true to the spirit of the original. Which of course even the original went through a lot of changes over time. Anyway,
Yeah.
they had some really great, ridiculously bad films that they
Skewered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been very funny. So I am kind of sad to see it go, but at the same time, this happens a lot with Netflix shows. They get 2 seasons, maybe 3.
Yeah, Netflix doesn't go very long with very
They
much.
don't.
They often don't. Yeah.
Hopefully somebody else might take a hold of it though, because I mean they nailed the remake. I think it was really
Yes.
good.
It seems like it would be a perfect fit again for Sci-Fi Channel. I wish Sci-Fi would take it. And you know what? NBC has a new streaming service called Peacock, which is coming out, which I think is going to include all of their cable channels, of which Sci-Fi is one. So that would be a perfect home for it on the Peacock streaming service. So fingers are crossed. Jonah Ray is so funny, and Felicia Day, you know,
Yeah.
if she wasn't already married, I'd ask her right now. So is she married?
You know
you know,
what?
Yeah.
Can
I
we
should
get her on the
know. I don't
line?
know.
Can we call her up and ask?
No, but anyways, by the way, the projections for the final Star Wars film. It's interesting to note that Force Awakens, its early projections, its tracking numbers were for 175 to 200. The Last Jedi, its tracking numbers were for 175 to 200. In this final film, it's again 175 to 200.
That's a lot of tacos.
But all of them, the first 2 films have so far really gone over the projection. Like the second one by not as much as the first one got 249, which was a record, like you said at the time. So I think this one might go over. And we're going to talk about toxic fandom in just a second, but I think this last one, hopefully it is not, but it might be a victim of the previous film stirring up Last Jedi stirring up a lot of that toxic fandom and,
Yes.
and irritation.
Because
So
that can make or break the movie. Like, if it gets really good reviews, then it can redeem, and all these people want to see it again and again, or tell their friends to go see it, because a lot of people have lost hope.
Yeah.
yeah, and
And
what
the
was
toxic
They need
Yeah.
a new hope. Is that what you're
Yeah, they
saying?
need a new
But-
hope in Star Wars.
But Mandalorian is helping it a little bit.
Mandalorian is
Helping it a
Yeah.
lot,
I think
I'd
that's
say.
perfectly timed. This Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
And-
see 70-year-old baby Yoda.
Yeah. Well, the Last
He'll have
Jedi.
one tooth.
A lot of us did have problems
90
with it,
maybe.
And we're gonna-
but of course, that might drive some people away. But really, I think Star Wars fans, even people who are furious about the Last Jedi, it's not probably going to keep that many people away from seeing this one.
No.
Because I have not forgiven Rian Johnson yet for that, and I'm still going to see it. I did see Knives Out last week.
Yes,
What did you think about that?
I really enjoyed it.
I saw it kind of.
Yeah. I just think
slept through
I
it.
know, I know.
it was some good writing, and I think
Yeah.
that's the sort of film Rian Johnson should be making. I would like to see it. I would rather he just stay away from sci-fi, because I didn't like Looper either.
Oh,
And
I like Looper.
Really? See, I know that's controversial. I have lots of reasons. I've told you my reasons for not liking
No,
Looper.
I agree with that. No,
I have so many.
Your one of your biggest complaints is that
yeah.
he mixed two supernatural things.
Yeah, make it a
Time
movie
travel-
about time travel, or make it a movie about telekinetic superpowers.
Right.
But you try and put those two together, and it's like, why? This is completely unnecessary. You're trying to tell two different stories and weave them together, and it doesn't make any sense.
But what's interesting is Patrik Joseph Rieger, because you and I were talking before the show tonight, and you were reading up some on toxic fandom today, and you came across the article that talked about how Kelly Marie Tran was chased out of fandom, and that or chased out off of social media because
Yes.
all the people that love Star Wars, for some reason, a lot of them, not all of them, there was a group that targeted her, and you had some
Ridiculous.
thoughts about that. You were saying how awful that was.
She didn't write the script.
No, and we were talking about that. And what were your thoughts?
I did have some thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Just because an actor is cast in a role that's not popular doesn't mean that, a cult can get together in an internet echo chamber and tear her apart. That's
agree.
just not un-American. It's not kind.
Not to mention they're all doing it like behind an icon or behind an avatar. It's not
What was
themselves.
who was talking? What were you
Facebook and Instagram are talking about a revolutionary concept applied to the software called pseudonymity.
Yeah.
We're moving past this era of I can say whatever I want in hiding, and you have to prove your identity.
You have to show who you are. No more of this
Wow.
I think it's revolutionary.
Leia 45 can say whatever she wants. I think it's
How many of us in this room or out there in the con guy world have not wanted to just say, you know what, give me your goddamn address. Who the hell are you? That's some sick stuff right there.
But I have my friend Greg, who has been in here before. Greg was on the show one time, and he says there are studies that show, like people say, well, isn't social media? Doesn't it just like it doesn't create animosity? It just like makes it loud, gives people a way to say their harsh feelings. That's not true. Because studies have shown that if you can look at somebody in the eye, if you're having a real conversation with them, you will not be as mean as you are when you're anonymous and online and saying things. I mean, it's kind of like really, the
Hiding
statement.
behind your keyboard. That's exactly what it is.
Therapy online is not real therapy. It's creating and breeding antisocial behavior.
You know what? I think you got a good reality show idea. Bring the people together with the actual actor and have them really tell them see if they chicken out or they actually say what they said on Twitter.
On this show, we say, Kelly Marie Tran, we can't wait to see you back. I agree. I did not like her character's storyline in Last Jedi, and I'm with Derek. The Last Jedi was perhaps my least favorite of all the Star Wars films, but it's so ridiculous to be one of these people that jumps on the bandwagon to hate, and say, I'm not going to see it anymore. No, I love Star Wars. I'm going to see the next film. I'm seeing it on December 17th. Early screening. I'm so excited.
Do fans know that she appreciated the job?
The truth,
I don't think that they think that through, honestly.
Plus, I think a lot of people, those negative people, I'm hoping in my heart of hearts that that's smaller than what we give credence to.
I think it is. I think you have, but a few people become very loud, and sometimes that's all
Yeah.
you can hear.
Just because you're shouting the loudest doesn't mean you're the minority.
You could be at a really great theater performance and the whole audience could have their attention just be totally wrapped in the performance and dead silent, and then one person stands up and heckles from the back, and that's what the actor will remember. It doesn't mean that that's a truth, that that's any kind of reflection on their performance. It just means that person's an a-hole.
Yep.
But still, that's what's going to stand out, and it's
100%.
horrible, but that's just human nature.
And the topic for our show tonight is how some brands and some movies and some things are coming back, and they're kind of trying to push back. They're transcending this toxic fandom because they're all about things that existed before social media. Patrik, real quick, you are the leader of a band. What is your band?
Whiskey Sunday,
Yay.
the hardest working Irish Americana band in Los Angeles County. Am I right?
I think you are right.
That is
I
true.
never miss a show. Derek is a big
And up
fan.
the latest.
That's right.
You were also part of Derek's wedding.
Yeah,
I played the music at Derek's wedding.
that's right.
That was great.
We just got married.
Derek and Lara.
We just got married about 3 years ago.
I say it every
yeah.
time they enter a gig.
It's
I say,
great.
they're newlyweds.
Yeah.
But let me ask you real quick, because we're talking about nostalgia tonight. We're about to go into it here in a second. But your writing comes from a very deep nostalgic place. Can you talk about that?
I will talk about it, and I look forward to talking about it right now.
Okay.
Many of my lyrics and storytelling come from a deep longing for home, much like most of the population in Los Angeles. I moved here 2,000 miles 12 years ago from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And homesickness, as my grandma would say, is a sickness. It lives with you your whole life. And no offense to Los Angeles, but for expatriates from the Midwest or the East Coast or the South or any part of America, that stays with you while you try to make a life for yourself in Los Angeles, which I love. I love the city of Los Angeles. But I'm sorry, a lot of my inspiration comes from the pain of homesickness, which goes hand in hand with nostalgia. And sometimes I live too much in nostalgia. Sometimes I live in a happy amount of nostalgia.
And we'll
I
talk
like it.
about that in just
Yeah.
one second. But you have two songs in particular that come to mind that just are so much about nostalgia. One of them is one of your most recent songs, "The Places We're Born."
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for that song?
The places we're born. I keep thinking about my grandma's front porch, and how we'd congregate or show up in the middle of the night. My cousins, we worshipped our grandparents. We come from a long line of revering grandparents, no matter how much pain they sort of passed on to us in a family cyclical way. But we were taught to revere and love older generations. It's definitely genetic. So The Places We're Born is about anyone out there who can't stand the thought of home and is also obsessed with it and loves it and cannot tear themselves away.
Yeah, and you have another song that's all about nostalgia. It's the memories for
No more memory for the rest.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, as a coping mechanism, decide to survive through only remembering the good things. I think it's important to feel as a way to heal, but I also think it's important to keep a scrapbook and keep it there with a little bit of dust on it in a closet. Sometimes scrapbooks should remain scrapbooks, and you get them out every once in a while.
Patrik, where can people find your music?
iTunes, Amazon, Whiskey Sunday. The album is Holy Water. I appreciate that, Jim.
And they can follow you on Instagram too, Whiskey Sunday Band.
Heard of it?
Yeah?
Heard of
Isn't
it?
that where we find you?
Heard of it?
Heard of it?
Heard of it.
My buddy Liam Lewis runs
Yeah.
the Instagram.
Liam Lewis, who is a great guy. Also, tonight we will be posting a link to a great video, which Cheeseman over here on the couch was the director of, a song called American Spirit.
That you
Good
helped
song.
produce,
I helped
and his
produce.
wife helped.
Hey, yes,
produce.
my wife Lara produced.
Yep. And also filmed, and cinematographer. Fantastic
Start
video.
this guy.
We're going to put it on the website tonight so everybody can check that out with a link so where you guys can find the music. So
It's a fantastic video. And
we-
you know what?
yeah.
You're nothing without your friends and family. Jim and Luke, Derek, Lara, you guys produced a hell of a piece of art.
Yes. Well, we love you, Patty, and I just thank you for coming on the show tonight. And the last thing, one of the reasons I was so excited about Patrik coming on the show tonight, he is the least familiar with toxic fandom because show your phone, Patrik.
That's one of
It's a flip phone.
I got a guy.
This is
guy.
old.
Great.
This is a 6S iPhone. This is ancient, but look at that thing.
And so when we were talking about toxic fandom, Patrik was reading about it, and he was just like appalled. He goes, we were talking about like how terrible it was, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in just a second. But first, let's talk about something super positive. We have some events that are coming up. that are taking us up to the end of the year. And happy 2020! We have the very first one of the new year is on this night. So, Katie, can you take us through that?
Yeah, so December 6th through 8th, that's this weekend, I believe, right? Yeah, I don't even know what day it is. All right. Is Steel City Con in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Also, there's 2 one-day cons on December 7th. One is Asheville Comic-Con in Asheville, North Carolina, and Roanoke Valley Comic-Con, Roanoke, Virginia, at the Tanglewood Mall. That's cool.
Yep.
And then December 29th, right before the new year, is Philadelphia Comic-Con.
What
in
up?
Essington, Pennsylvania.
What?
He's got Ryan's
has it up
Been
on
a
the
few
screen.
times. Been a
Yeah.
few times.
Oh, that's
those
right.
sunglasses.
That's Ryan's
Yeah.
hometown.
Been twice.
It's his neighborhood, yeah.
And then the first convention of 2020 is January 4th and 5th, Cosmic Comic-Con in St. Charles, Illinois.
Right outside Chicago.
And then January 17th through 19th, Albuquerque Comic-Con in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And
Here-
I'm going
go
to
ahead.
try to look up kind of a little bit of information on each of these and tweet it. I'm going to try.
Oh, thank you. And
So
Katie's
that
so
people
great on
can-
social media.
Can kind of get like a little gist or at least where to find information about it. So I'll try. Not everybody has a lot of information readily available, but I'll try to do some digging for you
And
guys.
just so you know, these cons right now that we're talking about, Philadelphia, the Steel City one, is probably the biggest one. The rest of them are kind of very small regional cons, which makes them really important for people to go to. You know,
And those are fun to go to.
Yeah,
like
I
the one
love
we went
those.
to in Las Vegas.
on
my bachelor weekend.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a little one, and it was great because
Yeah.
you could just walk around. You could actually get to know people. You could go to tables and buy comic books. You know,
It's also good for people who have not been to a convention before. It's a good way to like kind of dip your feet in the water and kind of get the vibe of what it is. You know, you can visit all the different components. Some of them are focused on gaming, some are focused on anime, some are focused on music. Like there's all sorts of conventions. So I recommend going for a day to one of these smaller ones just to see what it's like. Because going to a huge one like a Comic-Con can be very overwhelming if it's your very first time ever going to a convention.
Right.
So.
And there's a giant convention, a giant Comic-Con happening in a couple of weeks down in South America. It's become the second most important, they say, Comic-Con convention, just behind San Diego Comic-Con. Feige is going to be there presenting some new stuff from Marvel. He's going to be debuting like the most footage yet from Black Widow, which is pretty exciting. I'm talking to one of the actors from Black Widow this week, Pugh. So I'm so excited about that. Yes, I'm excited. I'm so excited about that.
she's great.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk. We're talking all about Black Widow. So
She's having a year.
yes,
Yeah.
isn't
She's
she?
in everything this year. And
Yeah.
terrific too.
I love the glasses so much.
Those glasses look great, Ryan.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, we're going to talk about how E.T. and the rest of nostalgia is saving Christmas this year. But first, I'm going to give you a little bit. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but this is what we are trying to fight against. An article in Vanity Fair that says, well, Vanity Fair is quoting The Hollywood Reporter. So according to The Hollywood Reporter, the two showrunners of Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss, their Star Wars exit, because they have left the Star Wars universe, had been in the works since August. But The Hollywood Reporter has affirmed that the reason that the two wound up walking away partially had to do with their Netflix deal. But another big factor that prompted the decision was toxic fandom.
Yep.
As Benioff and Weiss watched Star Wars fans bully actors and directors, a source for The Hollywood Reporter says that they began to have doubts about whether they should even dip their toes in this as well. And it was evidence as following the Game of Thrones backlash, the two of them even opted to skip out on this year's San Diego Comic-Con panel. That's one example. Here's another one. J.J. Abrams, director of the upcoming Rise of Skywalker, said, I think, this is his quote, I think that the bigger question is how has everything changed? The reaction to Star Wars, the increased attacks on it, the increased negativity, the fandom menace. I thought that's a funny name for it.
Nice.
As they call it. This is not unique to Star Wars, obviously, he said. He has added, it's something that the creative teams should expect all across Hollywood in general. Kelly Marie Tran, who plays Rose Tico, was driven off of social media by fans in numerous attacks and have been directed at. Oh, and plus, additionally, numerous attacks have been directed at Rey, the character of Rey, for being a quote-unquote Mary Sue, which is a negative way of saying she's a female character in genre that can just do everything and she doesn't deserve it.
Well, Mary Sue doesn't just apply to female characters. Basically, it's any character who just is suddenly good at everything
Yes. Right.
without having any training.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is kind of what's happened with Rey.
there's kind of, you know what, there might be a little bit of truth to that, but...
I mean, I still like her.
I love Rey.
But I think that's a weakness, particularly with The Last Jedi, that she got way stronger without earning it.
And this is what he said. He goes, I always loved Star Wars because it's got such a huge heart. And he said, did I always believe in and agree with every single thing that happened in every movie, whether it was the prequels or the original trilogy? No. But I do love Star Wars. And yes, so for me, I hope, and I'm sure naively, that we can return to a time where we give things a bit more latitude. Let's talk about that time. I think all of it... Oh, there's Kelly Marie right there. By the way, Kelly Marie is an awesome person. I also had the privilege of interviewing her for a magazine article I did. She was so excited about playing Star Wars. That's why it was so sad to see what happened to her. I was so extremely sad.
And you know what? I like her. I like the way the character's introduced and everything. She's very endearing.
Yeah.
It's just like the way the story goes with the character. You're like, oh, they took it in that direction. They could have done much better stuff with that. They could have used her as an actress much better.
I think
and that
they
is
will.
not her
I
fault.
think they're going to. The problem with these movies right now is like they're trying to do service to the legacy characters and then introduce this whole big world of new characters. Even this new movie, they have a lot of new characters and new robots, Dio, and I'm like, God, let's just finish the stories of who we got. I think would be great. But anyways, this isn't for me. All right, guys, we are going to start talking about things that are happening this holiday season that are reminding us of things from maybe our childhood or early on in our lives that brought us great joy. Things that are transcending toxic fandom. Cheeseman, I would like for you to start with the one that just blew us away on Thanksgiving, which Ryan is showing right now on the screen.
Oh, who, this guy? This guy here on my shirt?
Yeah.
E.T. I was not expecting that. I had no idea that was even coming. I got a text from some Ohio friends who are on a different coast, so I woke up to this text of this E.T. thing, and I saw a still from it, and I just thought, like, oh, it's going to... Am I supposed to be talking about the trailer?
Keep talking, yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, they, used so many of the shots. I didn't know it was going to, be this... basically, they were showing this scene that we're showing right now of when they basically saw... When Elliot saw E.T. in the cornfield, they're kind of doing that at Christmas time with the
real quick,
snowman.
before you... But what is it what we're talking about? A big commercial came on Thanksgiving morning, which was basically a sequel to E.T.
sequel to E.T. that we always wanted, that we thought Spielberg would do at some point.
For Xfinity.
So,
for Xfinity.
And what did you think?
It was amazing. I mean, it was everything like you'd want it to be that Hollywood probably want to do, because then they'd be like, wow, we got to make it sad here. We got to do this. We got to have kind of the family torn apart, and which, I mean, would be good storytelling. I would want that sequel, but it was kind of nice getting the kind of the sugar coating of E.T. came back, and he saw Elliot and his family and kind of did the same kind of things with them. Like, the kids went out on the bicycles. He was out there with E.T. and they were eating Reese's Pieces again.
It's like their old uncle back.
Yeah.
Did you guys all see
They built a
this?
I did not
snowman.
see it.
Oh, well, this is it
Yeah,
right here.
I'm watching it right now.
It was really cool because it was right around Christmas. E.T. shows up again and appears to these kids who are building a snowman, and it just so happens to be the children of Elliot.
Yeah.
And it was so great. It was so heartwarming to see Elliot run out of the house and E.T.
And he actually
you're back!
played it with full intent. It wasn't corny or anything.
Yeah, like the actors are all really committed to it, and
They should have had a Drew Barrymore cameo. That would have been
that
amazing.
would have been cool.
Maybe they'll make more though.
But
And this was done by the Lost in Translation cinematographer. Maybe, I don't think he directed. I think it was a cinematographer, but maybe director. But yeah, I was kind of looking it up because I was seeing if there's a behind the scenes to this, because this really surprised me, and I'm like a giant E.T. fan. It's definitely one of my top 5 movies, and as a fan, I was definitely impressed. And even special effects looked pretty good. The voice was a little different, but I mean, they told a great story, very heartwarming. And then even did the thing at the end where Elliot sees them riding off.
Sorry about that.
Sees them riding off on the bikes, and he knows where they're going, and he goes to where the spaceship, and then they do the whole I'll be right here kind of moment again where they're watching, and E.T. had this little ball of. And the other thing too that they revealed in this is E.T. had a family of his own, and that's part of the reason he was missing home, is because he had kind of a wife and a kid or something like that.
Luke, were you okay with that his comeback was in the form of an ad?
Oh yeah. Because, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever fully do the sequel, and this could inspire a sequel, but it was very heartwarming, it was probably the best commercial I've ever seen in my life, as far as it just felt so cinematic and told like a story from the beginning to the end. It was just amazing.
And on television, they showed like a 30-second or 1-minute version. The full version is like 2.5 minutes long. So
yeah, they really spent some time on it.
It's like a miniature movie.
And you got to look closely because there's a lot of throwbacks to it. Like, I didn't even notice to the last time I watched it that there were like Reese's Pieces on these little cupcake things that they're eating. So there's just all these little like tiny things that feel similar to the movie and stuff. They really thought about this.
Yeah, it is great. Like when you get around Christmas time, commercials just somehow start making me cry. I mean, not quite. I get close though. I start to tear up. And like I
teared up in this one,
yeah, and I wasn't even the fan of E.T. growing up that some of my peers were, like Luke, but this was still getting to me.
Yeah.
And part of that, the score, the music was in there too. Like they got pretty much everything back they could.
The John Williams score right at the moment when the bikes took off and went flying in front of the full moon. It's like, oh my gosh, you're getting all the feels.
That was
right
what
there.
Really got me.
But why was it? What is it about that? Why did this hit so much across the country? It was an instant smash. It's millions of people have downloaded and watched this video. What is it?
Well, it's very easy to care about a non-human.
Yeah.
If you notice in a lot of Martin McDonagh movies, there's a lot of deaths of humans, but as soon as a dog gets hurt,
it's true.
That's when people go nuts.
It's true.
So for E.T., he is the protagonist.
Yeah.
He's not dissimilar from a dog in a movie about a bunch of people dying, but as soon as the dog gets hurt.
Or baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
It's a character who's small, defenseless, and innocent that you just want to protect.
Oh, yeah.
And here, there's also that nostalgia factor, and I think Baby Yoda, we get some of that too, because it's harkens back to the original Star Wars trilogy that we all love so much, and Yoda was always my favorite.
So,
and part with you too, you were talking about writing songs about missing home and kind of having that same feeling that
it's a diaspora.
When somebody's missing
E.T.'s
home
story is of an expatriate and lost.
Yeah, it is.
He's lost.
And he's looking. He's trying to get home. And in this one, he comes to visit somebody that he had visited maybe in his childhood, young E.T., and then he goes back home again. It's all about going home.
I love it.
And you know what? E.T. came out when there was no what we know of today as toxic fandom. I'm sure there were haters in the days of E.T. People that said
there was no internet.
Yeah, but
those were the good days.
Those were the great days. Even though you guys are watching this on the internet right now, we're all about social media, but we're using it for good. All right, so
I'm sure it brought like Elliot's family closer too, which they didn't like fully show that. But if that happened to that family, it probably brought them even closer together. That this is a Christmas memory that they'll never forget, and it feels good.
And I'm saying
it's better than a white Christmas.
It is amazing, and it is kicking off our discussion of things from our childhood. Fandoms that we are finally remembering during this childhood. Now I'm going to go, before we go, Brad actually created a little video for us that we're going to see in just a second. But before we do that, I want to go around the table here and see what you guys think. What are some of the fandoms that are coming back that mean so much to you?
Well, I was just going to say, in general, you're seeing a lot of merchandise that's just completely geared toward nostalgia.
Yep.
I mean, you go on Box Lunch and it's the nostalgia factor of Hot Topic. Like, that's legit what Box Lunch is. You go in and there's these shows from Nickelodeon shows that you used to watch a long time, and they're putting out T-shirts of it and other things to bring you back to your childhood. So I think just in general, everything, like even people who are doing marketing are playing on that in what they sell for merchandise.
That is perfect.
I mean,
and before we go to you,
my sweatshirt,
Yep.
It's a throwback.
So, Katie, that is perfect for, hey, Ryan, if we can go ahead and the Nostalgia Saves Christmas video we have here with the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Brad went to Target last night. We can just go ahead and start and go through. Brad went to Target last night and took the pictures of everything on the Target shelf.
Phone.
The little phone from Fisher Price. Shoots and Ladders, something from our childhoods is one of the big things.
No one knew how to play it, but they still
it's
tried.
called Retro. Look at this. Battleship.
I know how to play that one.
The Retro Battleship game. Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Wait, they had Rock'em Sock'em Robots at Target?
Yep.
Wow.
Etch a Sketch. These were all last night.
No
These are
charging. That's
60
great.
years. Yeah. Light bright. Bigger, brighter screen.
Oh, nope.
The trolls. I'm not really. That's not my thing either.
Nope.
Those little troll things.
Hey, I had some.
My Little
Pony.
Pony.
Wow.
Luke, you had My Little Ponies.
Spirograph.
Trolls.
I got this.
I love those
My
things.
sister had My Little Ponies.
I love that
So
too.
technically they
Care
were in my
Bears.
house.
Care Bears were there. And these are all from like the 80s or earlier. Pound Puppies.
Oh
I
my
did have
goodness.
I had
Puppies.
one
I
just
know.
like that.
The,
Yes.
the
I have a
Cabbage Patch
hand-me-down
Kids?
Cabbage
Pound
Patch
Puppy.
Kids on
And a
Wait,
hand-me-down
this is
Cabbage
seriously
Patch
from
Kid.
Target, like
last night.
night.
And there's the new She-Ra that Brad's not a big fan of. And then little Pac-Man.
Yeah, I've noticed
Oh, I
the-
want to
yeah.
see Brad playing Little Pac-Man.
I know. And then the
Is it
Atari
Little Miss Pac-Man?
2600. I love that one, the original Atari. So that's just a few of the photos that that he was able to track down last night. And he also had some other ones that he would send us, but we didn't have time to put them in. But just like you were saying,
Yeah.
toys. The toys. Have you guys watched the Netflix series Toys
Toys
That
That
Yes,
Made
the
Us?
toys that made
Yes.
us.
What do you
yes.
think of that?
It's fantastic.
I love it.
You learn some really cool information, but also you get to have that nostalgia factor of, oh yeah, I had those toys, and oh, there was so much more about them I didn't know. I
I'm
just
gonna
had that
blow
visit.
everyone's mind right quick.
Yeah.
We had the executive producer of the Toys That Made Us
I
this
heard that.
morning in studio.
No way!
You can check out our interview on the Christmas 24/7 channel. It was
Yes.
such a great interview. It's one of the best interviews probably ever gone in this building. He was an absolute delight. We talked all about Star Wars, He-Man, all these
Yep.
potential other series and spin-offs. Also, you gotta check out the movies that made us,
Yeah.
which just came out.
Yeah, we
I
were
wanna
gonna
see that.
show the trailer to that. We might if we have time. But like, yeah, the Toys That Made Us is so amazing, and the story about He-Man is so gigantic that I never knew, and I was
Yeah.
alive when all that stuff was happening. So
And I think the reason why, nostalgia is becoming such a big thing is like life gets so much more complicated as an adult. So if you have that moment to remember when things were different and simpler and innocent and everything, of course we'd want to go back to that. Because you may not have fully appreciated it as much as a kid as you do as an adult.
yep.
So
Derek,
Yes.
what is it that's pulling at your heartstrings these days?
Well, let's see.
From your childhood.
Danae and I we need to share that.
Yeah.
We got to share this one, but this is not our opinion. This is a statement of fact that the best Christmas film is The
Ever
Muppet
made.
Christmas Carol.
It is also the best
Muppet
adaptation.
Christmas Carol?
Muppet Christmas
Yes.
Carol.
valid.
Oh, I love it. And
Yes, it is the best adaptation, maybe the most faithful adaptation of a
Yeah.
Christmas,
Of Christmas
Carol that
Carol,
I've ever
indeed.
seen.
We've
when you
watched
go-
it once already. We will watch it at least one more time.
Yes, and we'll probably be singing the songs about a dozen times at least in
Absolutely.
between viewings.
With doing all the voices, because that's
Yes,
what we
because
do.
that's how you do.
Yeah.
Anyway, right now these ads for the portal
Portal.
from Facebook is
Yeah,
are the Muppets
Muppets.
talking to
The
each other
Muppets.
on their
Like,
TVs.
nothing against
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris, but none of the commercials before had ever made me want a portal until, like, I'm watching the Muppets.
What's
use
a portal?
It's through Facebook.
It's
It's a magic mirror where you talk to your family that lives on the other side of
Yeah.
the country. And you talk to
it's
Miss
basically
Piggy while she's in
It's a
Paris.
device for Skype style communication, but you can actually get put it on your TV and talk to each other. And in the ads, you have like all the Muppets talking to each other. And there's my favorite is probably where Beaker is talking to the Swedish chef to
Yes.
get help with the
Yes.
meal he's trying to cook. And between the two of them,
Mork, mork,
yeah, it's a completely unintelligible conversation, but
They're great.
it's
They're-
amazing.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
But like, okay, but you mentioned Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yes.
But there's a big thing that look at there's
There's
Fozzie Bear
in
in
his
the
portal. Yeah. Oh, that's the other one. He calls his mom and he's trying out jokes on her, and she actually laughs at his jokes unlike anyone else. It's really cute.
Poor Fozzie.
Yeah.
But why? Okay, you mentioned Muppets Christmas Carol. In a big way, that has been pushed back into public consciousness. How was that?
Disney
With
Plus.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, the
Yeah.
biggest launch of this holiday
And they
season.
have the nostalgia factor because
They do.
I've
It's
spent
all
20 minutes
nostalgia.
looking at stuff that I got to watch that I can watch.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching Timon and Pumbaa, the show, the other day, and That's So Raven, and I will admit Jonas, but
all on Disney Plus. Plus,
Yes.
some other things on Disney Plus. Lizzie McGuire is back. It wasn't my
I
show.
watched
Chip and
it
Dale
already.
Rescue Rangers.
the
Yeah.
Tailspins.
The chipmunks, not the strippers.
Yeah, I got
Gargoyle-
excited about so
Yeah.
many things. on here.
Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I wasn't
Great
that as a
Mouse
kid. But like, yes.
Detective.
Yes!
Oh man, when we were at my wife's parents' house for Thanksgiving weekend, we told them that they needed to get it so they could watch The Mandalorian, and then they did, and then they spent the whole rest of the day watching classic Disney movie after
One
movie,
right
and
after the
yeah,
other.
and we went out for a while in the evening and came back, and they were on like movie 3 or 4 since we'd left them, and yeah,
So I'm wondering, like the launch of Disney Plus has really capitalized on nostalgia in
Yes.
such a giant way, and I think it is that and ET. Those are the stories of this Christmas season right now. Is
Yeah.
Disney Plus? I don't think you're gonna get more oxygen sucked out of the room.
I
than
have
Disney
one more
Plus.
tidbit about this.
Oh, go.
My father-in-law, finally, like after they had been arguing about which movie to watch next and going between them, he put on Sleeping Beauty, and he said, "I first saw this on my way over to the United States from the Philippines, when he was 14, coming across on a ship with his family, and that kind of tugged at my heartstrings because I was
It's a better story than
I can't quite relate to that, but that's
Yeah.
part of the thing with nostalgia. It takes you back to these times and the things that were important in your life, and that's something we always want to do at Christmas time anyway. And there is a line from Charles Dickens in A Christmas Carol where he says, "It is good to be a child sometimes, and never more so than at Christmas when its mighty founder was a child himself." And it's in this great moment when Bob Cratchit is just playing on the street in the ice with the kids, and that's kind of...
It's the Penguins' Christmas skating party.
Yes, exactly. Again, a great, very faithful
I feel
adaptation.
like we need to stop talking about the Muppets or I'm gonna cry.
I know, here we go. It's just getting all teary.
And that's why you always
Pat, I
have
think
this
you got
nostalgic
Patrick weeping
advertising
over
right
here.
now. It takes us back to the spirit of innocence and love and togetherness and fond memories, and that's what we want to do with around the holidays. And so it's a good thing.
And I think with Disney Plus now, with the acquisition of 20th Century Fox, like the stuff they're able to bring onto that is a big, with the X-Men, the Spider-Man, and some of the other like childhood nostalgic things. So because we haven't quite seen from Disney all the stuff they're going to do with that yet, but this is a big first step to have all that, all these old shows on a streaming thing, and just gave us even more content and stuff that's getting us excited about that acquisition now.
You had another one though.
I was gonna. Well, this isn't so much in the nostalgic advertising, but of course they're bringing back Picard.
No, it's not nostalgic advertising. It's nostalgia from
But
when we
of
were
course,
younger. That is like
it's coming back. Yeah, which was a huge thing. Like that was the Star Trek I grew up with. Like he's my captain.
Yeah,
and now he's coming back, and it's premiering the day before my birthday.
It doesn't get much better than that. Any more over here for you guys?
I just had one of the Samsung Galaxy commercial where it's adopt the Chewy dog. And the kid is like using his Samsung to make all these pictures and promotions to send to his dad. Be like, we got to go adopt this dog using his Samsung Galaxy. But then he gets there and the dog's been adopted. So he adopts a cat that looks like Kylo Ren instead. And that was a great commercial for all the things you can do with the Samsung Galaxy. But all it made me want to do was go to the shelter and adopt an animal.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Katie, do you have any others?
I was just good. Mine's pretty much all just like I said, merchandise.
No, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Do we have any more from the couch?
Derek, you mentioned Dickens. I don't think they can start merchandising Dickens. But remember, A Christmas Carol was a short story, a part of a collection. And the other ones were really, really dark. Dickens was a big fan of children and a big fan of the poor.
Yeah.
It was his goal in all of his writing to highlight the impoverished people of southern England.
Yeah.
And that was really important. And I'm sad, and I miss that tenet of Christmas. I really miss that tenet. I don't think it's religious. I don't think it's social. I think it's everybody's responsibility, no matter what creed, no matter what race, no matter where you're from, to embrace the poor at Christmas. And why they don't just keep making It's a Wonderful Life toys, I don't know. Because that's all about a working class family.
I love that movie
It's
so
all
much.
about a working class guy who's like, I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah.
It's goddamn Christmas. What do I do? I can never get enough It's a Wonderful Life.
I bought
Jimmy
a
Stewart's
shirt this
best
year
performance.
For it that's on one of those kind of sites that's doing all these nostalgic shirts. They did a Bailey Brothers shirt that I bought.
The Baileys.
Yeah.
When have we, our generation or past, made a movie where at the end everyone's doing a fundraiser because a guy's broke?
Yeah.
That's not popular anymore. That's the whole point of Christmas.
Haven't you seen Sister Act?
I love Sister Act.
Hey, Luke, do you have any others? If not, we got a couple more.
Go for it. That might make me think of
So, Ryan, I have a certain video link on there of a movie I saw this week, which just blew me away. It's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. Guys, I was not really expecting this movie to move me the way it did, but it did. And I've got to describe, there's one scene in the movie, and I don't care, I'm going to ruin it for you. I'm going to ruin it for you. There's a scene in the movie
So rude.
where there's a man. The movie, by the way, if Tom Hanks gets nominated, it's for supporting actor, because it's not Mr. Rogers' movie. It is another guy's movie who plays a magazine Esquire writer who is trying to do an expose on Mr. Rogers and almost take him down a little bit, take him down a few pegs, because he's kind of a misanthrope. He doesn't really love people, this writer. And so he goes to meet with Mr. Rogers a couple times, and it changes him. And they're sitting in a restaurant. There's a scene, they're sitting in a restaurant, and Mr. Rogers and him are talking. And
Spoiler alert.
It's a spoiler alert. And Mr. Rogers hears the pain coming out of this man, and Mr. Rogers starts asking him questions. let me ask you a question in that weird, kind of creepy Mr. Rogers voice. And the guy
talked really slow.
And the guy goes, you don't want to know about me. I'm a broken person. And Mr. Rogers goes, do me a favor. For me, before we start talking, let's take one moment of silence. And I want us both, let's think about every person in our lives who has loved us to get us to this point. And then the movie goes silent as they stare.
And I think it was a full minute.
It was a full minute. And then here's what happens. No music, no sound. Everyone in the restaurant they're in just gets quiet and silent. And Tom Hanks, the camera comes around and you see Tom Hanks is looking at this other character. And then halfway through, Tom Hanks turns and looks at the camera. And he's looking at each one of us in that theater, challenging us to do that. And that's when it got me. I was like, Mr. Rogers is saving the world right now. It was, I hope he gets rewarded with some awards. If not, I hope he changes some lives. This is, because Mr. Rogers was a Presbyterian minister, very faith-filled man. And there were moments in this movie where the people that were trying to take him down, he wrote their names in a book, and every night before bed, he would pray for them.
Wow.
And it's so great. I loved it. I love this movie so much. We need more Mr. Rogers. So Mr. Rogers is something from my childhood, everyone's childhood, that is back in a big way this Christmas. Guys, go see the movie. Go see the movie. I love it so much. There's also another video we have on here, a piece of nostalgia that is coming back hopefully on December 20th of this year. It is the Ewoks. You read the piece of news. What do you think about an older, wiser Wicket coming back for the movie?
I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. It might feel kind of forced if there's not a good reason for them to be
forced with us.
But we'll see.
Forced awakening. No, no, I get it. But I think it's kind of cool. We don't know for sure that he's back, but the Star Wars company, Lucasfilm, they released a video all the nostalgic, they're playing up nostalgia in such a big way to promote this film. And one of the video compilations, you see an older Warwick Davis in an outfit as an older Wicket, and so they didn't announce it that he's there, but I think we can.
I will be so happy if that happens. I'm smiling super for the people who are listening, I'm smiling huge right now because I love Ewoks. They're my favorite. And I've been patiently hoping that they might show up in Mandalorian. But if I don't get them in Mandalorian, hopefully I get them in this. So I'm just hoping I get to see some Ewoks this month.
Well, and real quick, we would be remiss if we didn't mention a certain show this week. And Scott Reynolds, who was on our show just, let me see, right before Halloween had this, he just tweeted this out. Hey, this Watchmen is so freaking great. That is all. Ryan, you guys have a Watchmen show.
Oh, yes, we do. Every Sunday night, 6 p.m. PST.
Yeah.
Sorry, 7 p.m. PST. We watched it at 6. I mixed it up.
Well, you talked about nostalgia this week, right?
Yes, there was a element of nostalgia present in this episode, but it wasn't the type of nostalgia we're talking about. Right. This was pills.
Yeah.
Pills that you take and make you remember someone's memories in this world of Watchmen. And one Regina King takes all of them at once before she gets arrested and is reliving. There's an episode where she's just reliving another person's memories, which has been outlawed in this country. Apparently it can do harm to your brain. But it's really incredible filmmaking and just an absolutely amazing episode all about nostalgia and memories. And yeah, it's quite fitting. Definitely check it out. Watchmen HBO. I think it's the best show on TV, and our after show is pretty dope too.
All right, and I do know that Damon Lindelof, he was writing in his journal, and this is in a Vanity Fair article this week, and 3 words that he wrote were, nostalgia is toxic, which is a very different way of thinking about nostalgia. It can be toxic.
I think "can be" would be a good thing to add to that. I don't think it's necessarily toxic, but it can be.
Well, that is one of the complaints people have had about the new Star Wars trilogies, that they're relying that they could be relying too much on nostalgia.
Yeah.
I mean, The Force Awakens, it was basically just a retelling of A New Hope. It was which I did enjoy how they kind of were able to pay homage to that and then go and have this separate story too. But I can see that complaint, and I that might be some of what he was getting at.
Well, and also he was getting a little bit, if you watch the Watchmen series, it has some dark spots, but also I think how people have a tendency to whitewash history in such a way where we only remember it the way we want to remember it, and without getting political, and because I don't want to get political here on the show. Me and Patty, we had political discussions last night and they were great, but we don't do that in public. Right. But like one of the things that somebody wrote about that episode was Nostalgia is great as long as you are a straight white Christian man. Oof. I don't want to go there. That's too provocative for the show. But some of the Watchmen does raise some issues that's very provocative, and it's worth the watch. It's worth the watching the Watchmen. Who's watching the Watchmen? Who's watching the Watchmen? Half of America is watching the Watchmen.
It's kind of like what Patrik mentioned with his song earlier, that it's very easy as a defense mechanism to just remember the good things.
Yep.
But sometimes we have to remember, there was Jar Jar Binks.
He was very nice in real life. I saw him
Oh, yeah.
recently at a Robot Chicken thing. They brought him back
The
for
actor
that
seems
stuff.
like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Ryan, were you going to say something?
No, it's just, I was preemptively getting ready to. We're good. We're good.
Okay,
Yeah,
no, it was funny. I just love Ryan just sitting there kind of like observing. He's the watchman right now. No, but like it is true. Like but you know what? How great. I mean, is it such a bad thing sometimes that we remember the good? No. Like sometimes is it because there's enough bad. There's enough bad, and I would encourage everybody to maybe do like Mr. Rogers said, turn the phone off for 1 minute. 1 minute of silence, and just remember the good things in life and what got you where you're at.
Who loved you in your life.
Do it. Cheeseman can do it. So, anyways,
By the way, the movie that gave us Jar Jar Binks also was the big break for Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
So, good and bad. It came out
and Keira Knightley.
Come on, Mars Attacks.
Jim, memory is the universe's best tailor. We're wearing them all the time. You want to wear the best outfit you've got.
Fantastic.
Wow.
And there's a reason why we were given eyes in front of us, but we have all got scrapbooks. We should sanctify our scrapbooks. Am I right?
Is the album called Scrapbook?
He's our poet, people.
Okay, by the way, Patrik.
He's a lyricist.
He is a lyricist. He's a poet, and he speaks straight from the heart. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight, Patrik. Thank you, everybody, for being on this nostalgia themed show tonight. I can't wait for Christmas. I can't wait for the season, and we're just kind of like celebrating all the good stuff. And this year in particular, it seems like a lot of the good stuff has been dusted off, and it's out there for us to enjoy. Let's not ruin it on social media. Don't hate it. Guys, Star Wars, go see it. I don't care if you didn't like the last movie. Me and Derek didn't like that last movie so much, but we're going to go see this Star Wars because we're big Star Wars fans. See Picard, see the Muppets Christmas Carol. By the way, Mandalorian, can I just say it's one of the biggest shows ever to stream. And it completely, like you were saying, plays into nostalgia. Nostalgia for the Mandalorians, for Baby Yoda, and what else? Anyways, anyone else have anything before we close out tonight?
I'll throw out my nostalgia.
Oh, yeah, Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I rewatched this movie on my flight home yesterday. Toy Story 4, I thought, did an incredible job of both relying on nostalgia for immediate connection to characters, but also telling this new story. And again, this is one that I think a lot of people were a little nervous about, like, oh my God, the first three are so good. How can this even compare? And that movie absolutely wrecks me. Yeah. I was weeping on the flight. It's so incredible. And it's also about kind of letting go of things in the past in a nostalgic type way. Really powerful movie, and I thought that just it's a great example of just a franchise and also a fourth film where you respect the past, you cherish those memories, but you're also moving on, and I thought that was so powerful. So Toy Story 4 is what I was going to say.
Did you make a forky from your spoon on the plane?
From my spork? I did not.
Spork?
But the plane did have a lot of turbulence, and the person next to me started crying, and that was fun.
Oh, that's great.
But I was crying earlier because of the movie.
Yeah. And as we wrap up, some other things that have been out either this year or last year, like last year, Ready Player One, all about nostalgia. Right now, the Dark Crystal prequel on Netflix. Picard is coming up. Stranger Things, even though it's not something from our past, it's all about the 80s and malls. It makes you miss the malls. Joker, the most successful R-rated film of all time, I would argue has a lot to do with our nostalgia for this Joker character and Batman character. Terminator, Dark Fate, it died real quick, but still, it exists because of our nostalgia.
They killed, spoiler, John Connor.
Well, in the first 30 seconds. Jumanji, The Next Level. Jumanji was something from when I was younger. But anyways, we do have to wrap up the show. Thank you guys so much for being on the show with us tonight. Where can we find everybody?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at KT_Christine. And tweet us your favorite nostalgia moment.
Yes. We want to know about it.
So, and that's on the Con Guy Twitter. I'm also on that, sorry.
Yep.
Yes, at theconguy.com. You can find me on Twitter at ConGuyDerek. I'd love to hear some of this too. and we'll talk about what we expect of Picard.
Cool.
You can find me on Instagram at DNAYS.
You can find me on the streets of Los Angeles or in the mountains of San Bernardino. Stay off the internet, folks. It's bad for your health.
Come on, you're on Instagram at Patrik J. Rieger, Rieger.
We forced him to get this
and
Instagram.
Twitter.
Yes.
He steals babies during Christmas.
And whiskey_Sunday.
And I'm Cheeseman on the Couch. You can find me on Twitter at CheeseOnCouch and on thecomguy.com, and also the Scare Guy Show and thescareguy.com, which is our other website. Check that out because Christmas can get scary too.
Speaking of which, next week we have a very special episode of The Scare Guy, the scariest movies to watch during the Christmas season. Check us out next week. We'll see you then, guys.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.